Prakriti, Mosham, Rag, Yag, Vidu, Tanti, Te, Ram. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sitra Sikshagyaya Evam Ataram Shakshusha Buddha Prakriti Moksham Cha Devi Duryanti Te Param Sitra Sitra Gyayor Evam Ataram Shakshusha Buddha Prakriti Moksham Cha Devi Duryanti Te Param
Antaram Chakshusha Prakriti Moksham Cha Devi Duryanti Te Param Chitra
Sitra of the body. Sitra Yagyo, the fire of the body. Evam, thus. Ataram, difference. Jnana Shakshusha, by the vision of knowledge. Bhuta, of the living entity. Prakriti, a material nature. Moksham, the liberation. Cha, also. Ye, those who. Vidu, know. Tanti, approach. They. Param, the supreme. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace H.G.Bhubaneswar Swami Srila Prabhupada. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage and material nature, attain to the supreme goal. Please repeat. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, can also understand the process of liberation from bondage and material nature, attain the supreme goal. Purport by His Divine Grace H.G.Bhubaneswar Swami Srila Prabhupada. The purport of this 13th chapter is that one should know the distinction between the body, the owner of the body, and the supersoul. One should recognize the process of liberation as described in verses 8 through 12. Then one can go on to the supreme destination. A faithful person should first have some good association to hear of God, and thus gradually become enlightened. One accepts a spiritual master, one can learn to distinguish between matter and spirit, and that becomes the stepping stone for further spiritual realization. The spiritual master, by various instructions, teaches a student to get free from the material conception of life. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna instructing Arjuna to free him from materialistic considerations. One can understand that this body is matter. It can be analyzed with its 24 elements. The body is the gross manifestation, and the subtle manifestation of the mind and the psychological effects. And the symptoms of life are the interaction of these features. But over and above this, there is the soul, and there is also the super soul. The soul and the super soul are two. This material world is working by the conjunction of the soul and the 24 material elements. One who can see the constitution of a whole material manifestation as this combination of the soul and material elements can also see the situation of the Supreme Soul becomes eligible for transfer to the spiritual world. These things are meant for contemplation and for realization. One should have a complete understanding of this chapter with the help of a spiritual master. Om Arya Ramdasha Jana Jana Stapaya Chakshu Nitam Jina Karmanishi Varena Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Dhammadam Lanti Swarapadantikam Vandeyam Shivaro Shivata Parakamalam Shivun Vaishnavamsta Shivukam Saritam Sadhana Dana Bhagavatam Tam Sajivam Advaitam Sarvatam Krishna Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shivara Krishna Padam Sahagana Vaita Shri Visham Hitam Cha Hey Krishna, Varuna Sindhu, Dinavadra Jugatade, Gopisha, Gopikanta, Bharatanta, Namaste, Bhakta Kamsana Gaurangi, Kare Vrindavan Vishvana Sutta Devi, Hemani Havi Panchakalpa Chudascha, Pita Sindhu Nevicha, Aram Pavamegyo, Vaishnavyo, Namo Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivastava Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation again. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage and material nature, attain to the supreme goal. This is the last verse in this chapter, and when this verse book was compiled, we'll read the most important verses. Verse 13:3. Most kind of Bharata, you should know that I am also the knower of all bodies. Who understands his body and its knower, it's called knowledge. That is my opinion. Humility, righteousness, non-violent, tolerance, simplicity, Approaching the bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, perception of evil, of birth, death, old age and disease, detachment and freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant ongoing devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, a philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge. Besides this, other than will be is ignorance. That was 8 through 12. And 13, 14, everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces. He has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. 1321. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effect, whereas the living entity is the cause of various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. 1322. The living entity in the material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil amongst various species. 1323. Yet in this body there is another transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and is known as the Super Soul. 1326. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person by hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authority, they also transcend the path of birth and death. So, purport begins with saying that once you recognize the process of liberation as described in verses 11 through 12, then one can go on to the supreme destination. So one of the main points is the accepting of the spiritual master. In the Upadesh Samrita, it says, Vacha Begam, Manasapurva Begam, Jiva Begam, Udara Asta Begam, Vitam Begam, Yo Vijayata Dira, Sarvam Api Mam, Pritibim Shishya. So a person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind to man, the action to anger, the urge to tongue, belly in general, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. It also says that one should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord. One should offer humble obeisance to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, diksha, deity worship. One should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service. His heart is completely void of propensity to criticize others. So, the spiritual master is the qualification of accepting a spiritual master. He should have full control of his senses, and he should be devoid of the propensity to criticize others. In other words, he must have a pure heart. And the spiritual master, there's Uttamadhikari, there's Kanistadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, Uttamadhikari. 3 levels of devotion, devotional service. Kanistadhikari and the Madhyamadhikari can act in the capacity of a spiritual master, but they may not be able to give sufficient guidance. But the Uttamadhikari is best to seek out the Uttamadhikari and serve him and accept initiation from such a person. Because the Uttamadhikari, he is in the pure goodness, and at no time can he fall down from Krishna consciousness or go back into the material world. But the Madhyamala or Kanistarakari may fall away, but generally Madhyamala is fixed, but the Kanistarakari, he may fall down. So one can be a little selective in accepting a spiritual master. But we take Diksha from one, the Harinam, into the Harinam mantra, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Or we can take Shiksha from many great souls. So even the spiritual master is on a lower level. With his permission, we can take Shiksha from a more advanced devotee. But we must not go outside of our sampradaya, the Gaudiya. We're in the Madhva Gaudiya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. There are four sampradayas, one with Lord Shiva, one with four Kumaras, one with goddess of fortune, and one with Lord Brahma. So, and there are many people in the world who claim to be spiritual teachers or giving spiritual guidance, but they're not in any one of the sampradayas. So therefore, we should not take shiksha from such people. This is considered the offense to the holy name, disobey the orders of the spiritual master, and to go outside of our sampradaya to hear from someone who's not in a bona fide spiritual sampradaya. This is also offense to the holy name, and this will hinder our spiritual advancement. So the duty of the spiritual master is to instruct the disciple so that the disciple can practice Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to Godhead at the end of this life. This is what the goal of Krishna consciousness is. Tevidu Sarvati Vishnu. This is Prahlad Maharaj told his father, the goal of life is that one should take the Krishna consciousness, go back home, back to Godhead. So, this sounds, it may be simple. The Krishna consciousness movement is a simple process, but it's also, one has to make the endeavor. One must be determined to get free from all material contamination in order to go back home, back to Godhead. So, since Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He's Supreme Pure Shuddha Sattva. So in order to know Krishna, understand Krishna, we also have to come to that level of purity. Without being pure, no one can go back to Godhead. It says, one is too attached to material enjoyment, resolute determination for the dosha service does not take place. So therefore, gradually, we should give up the anarthas in the heart, even though they're innumerable. We should give up the so many material desires that we have, and try to become fixed, so that at the time of death we can think of Krishna. Krishna says, Yam Yam Bhapi Smaram Bhavam. Whatever you think of at the time of death, that's what you will attain. So Krishna consciousness is the like the final exam. And one goes to the school, he studies for many years, and then they give the final examination. So one has to study very hard to pass, get a good grade on the final examination. So the final examination in this human life is that we'll be able to think of Krishna at the time of death. But even if we can't think of Krishna, if we're dedicate our life to Krishna, then Krishna will think of you at the time of death. So within the core of your heart. So therefore, Krishna tells Arjuna that even if one commits the most abominable activity, he's still considered saintly because he's rightly situated. This doesn't mean, that means if someone has an accident or fall down, commits some sinful activity, Krishna will excuse that person if he repents and doesn't continue with the same activity. And then Krishna tells Arjuna, you declared boldly, my devotee never perishes. So Arjuna said, well, why are you asking me to say this? And Krishna said, because I'm a Brijvasi, and Brijvasis aren't always known for keeping their promise. So if you say it, people will believe it more than if I say it. And Krishna also promised on the battle of Kurukshetra that he would not pick up any weapon, but Bhishma Dev forced Krishna to break his promise. When Arjuna was in trouble, Krishna grabbed the chariot wheel and rushed toward Bhishma to kill him. But at that time, the war ended for that day. So Krishna had to break his promise on the battle of Kurukshetra. So here it says a faithful person should first have some good association to hear of God and thus gradually become enlightened. So this is also important. Association. Satsangatyagi Vaishnavachara. One should avoid the association of materialistic persons, and especially one should avoid association of women or men who are attached to women. This doesn't. This is talking about materialistic men, materialistic women. The devotee, a grihastha man, has a wife and child. We can associate with them because they're following Krishna consciousness. But people who are not following Krishna consciousness, who are just ordinary souls and who are attached to their wife and attached to women, those kind of people we should avoid because we become contaminated by associating with non-devotees. So when the devotees go for preaching Krishna consciousness all over the world, we have to talk to people who are in the category of attached to women, but we don't really give them, we don't associate with those people. We give them our association. We don't hear from them about their activities, but we tell them about Krishna consciousness, and thus we try to give them a book about Krishna consciousness, and that Srila Prabhupada preached to them through his teachings. This way, we can always keep ourselves pure, even when we're doing book distribution or preaching Krishna consciousness. So, if a person has the Sakriti from past life Sakriti and has somehow or other, if he meets a devotee at a good station and he gradually starts to take to the practice of Krishna consciousness by hearing from the devotee and taking Krishna prasadam and chanting the holy name. In this way, one gradually begins to advance in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, if you associate with the wrong kind of people, you associate with those who are drunkards and alcoholics and people who take drugs, then will also want to do that. If we associate with thieves, will also become thieves. If we associate with devotees, then there's a good chance we'll gradually become devotee. So the devotee, first step is to associate with devotees, then one develops his faith, then Bhajavakri, then one accepts initiation, then one comes to the level of Nartha Nivritti, gives up all the unwanted things by following four regulated principles. No meeting, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. This is the basis of all the anarthas in the heart. So, this way, we can develop become fixed up in Krishna consciousness. So it says here that in Bhagavad Gita we find Krishna instructing Arjuna to free him from material consideration. First, Krishna told Arjuna that he spoke to the sun god 120 million years ago. So Arjuna asked, how is it possible? How is that possible? And Krishna said that you and I were both there at that time. I can remember, but you cannot. So Arjuna is the Nityasiddha, eternal associate of the Lord. And what Krishna is instructing him to, for our benefit, to free him from material consideration. Because in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna doesn't want to fight when he sees that he has to fight a battle against his friends, relative teachers, and so on. So Krishna has to instruct Arjuna and to convince him that this is his duty because Krishna wants him to do this. And this is also Krishna instructing Arjuna, he's instructing everybody in the world that how to get free from the material conception of life. So this is the 10th defense in chanting the holy name, to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on the subject matter. But thinking, I, me, mine. They have to understand Aham Brahmasmi, that I'm a spirit soul. I'm not this body. Brahma Bhuta Prashanatma, Associati Nakanchati, Samasarashi Vedeshu, Mad Bhakti Navate Param. When one comes to the platform of understanding that he's not this body, and he does not lament or hanker for anything, but he's always in a joyful mood. And we saw this in the life of Srila Prabhupada. And of course, there are many stumbling blocks and things that come our way that may interfere with our practice of Krishna consciousness. But here it says we should just tolerate these things and go on practicing Krishna consciousness. So this whole chapter is dealing with knowing the difference between the body and the knower of the body, the soul, and the super soul, or in the heart. These three things, and here it says that these three things, the soul and the super soul, are two. And there's also, so above this there is the soul, there's also the super soul. And the soul and the super soul are two. So in other words, we don't accept the Mayavadi conclusion that it's all one, and that this individual soul gives up his identity and can merge into the Brahman effulgence. It says, Vimukti Mainas, those whose intelligence is spoiled, says that they, even if they rise up the spiritual platform and get free from material entanglement and go to the Brahman effulgence, they still can fall back down into the material world because they have not taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. So this misconception is pervasive, especially in India, but all over the world. But especially in India, as Mayavadi philosophy is very prominent, and most people think that it's all one, and that at the end of life you just merge and become zero. But we know that the soul is the Jivar Shruboy Nitya Krishna Das. The soul we're eternally the servant of Krishna. We never can become the master. And when Vrindavan Das Thakur, today is the appearance day of Vrindavan Das Thakur, he wrote in Chaitanya Bhagavat that now we should always think that I'm the eternal servant of Lord Nityananda. Even if you don't realize that, you should still think that way, because I'm the eternal servant of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. This is our constitutional position, is the individual spirit soul. We have our dharma, our eternal religious duty is servant, and we want to go to the spiritual world and serve, especially we want to go to Golok Vrindavan and serve in the capacity there are four rasas. We're getting either as a friend, a servant, a friend, as a parent, or as a lover, Durya Ras. But we should not think that we can become Mother Yasoda or Nanda Maharaj or one of the associates of the Lord, but we can become a servant of those associates of the Lord. And even Putana, we know when Krishna was born, even before he could see properly, the demon Putana, she was sent by Kamsa. She was a very evil person, and her activities was to kill babies by sucking their blood. So Putana smeared her breasts with deadly poison and changed her form, because the Rakshasis and Rakshasas, they can assume any form they like. So Putana assumed the form of a very beautiful lady, and she was so beautiful that when she entered Braj, everyone was attracted to her, even the men were attracted to her. And so when she entered the house of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda, they did not check her from entering the room where Krishna was lying. They thought she was the goddess of fortune. Because Krishna was just a baby at that time, and she came with the intention of killing Krishna. But when she offered her breast to Krishna, which was smeared with deadly poison, Krishna sucked her breast, but he not only sucked her breast, but he sucked out of her life. And at the same time, he made sure that she did not die in that room, because when she died, she assumed her original form as a Rakshasi, which was 12 miles long. And if she had died in the room, she would have broken so many houses, and the whole village would have been destroyed. So, but because she touched Krishna, she was free from all sinful reaction, and therefore she attained a position. Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says, because she was a demon, she didn't exactly attain the position of a mother of Krishna, but she became a nurse of Krishna, that is Shrayabad, Dakshin in Golok Vrindavan. And when the coward men who came back from Mathura had gone to Mathura, Vasudev told them that you should go back to Gokul because there's going to be some disturbances there. So when they came back and they saw the body of Putana, which was 12 miles long, they were very surprised. And they immediately they cut that body with axes, made a fire, and burned the body. And the body, because Putana had been purified of all her sins, when the body was burning, it smelled like a glue, and gave off a very wonderful fragrance. So, this is what we're aspiring for, to go back home, back to Godhead. But of course, the demons and devotees are not the same. Krishna says that he's the he gives the protection to his devotees, and he's pleased with his devotees. He's not pleased with the demons, because they don't come with a service attitude. So those who have a proper service attitude, Krishna is pleased by that service attitude. And so we're talking about remembering Krishna at the time of death, remembering the pastimes of Krishna at the time of death. So by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, by reading Krishna book, reading 10th Canto, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, we can fill up our minds with these wonderful name form for the pastimes of the Lord. And this way, we can be eligible to be transferred to the spiritual world at the time of death. Even Ajamil, who was 88 years old, he had 10 children. Was it 10? 8 or 10? 8. He had 8 children. His last child, he named Narayan. So he was very much attached to his child. So at the time of death came, he was out of fear, out of anxiety, he called out to his child Narayan. And therefore, when the Yamadutas came to take him to Yamaraj for punishment, the Vishnudutas also came and said, no, you can't take him because he's chanted the name of Narayan. Now he's free from his sins. So he's no longer eligible to go to Yamaraj. So the Yamadutas were surprised that this happened. This is the first time it ever happened for these Yamadutas. And also it says in Chaitanya Bhagavat that because in his childhood Ajamil had performed devotional service and was a good devotee, but somehow he had to fall down and married a prostitute and spent most of his life in sinful activities. because of his childhood, he remembered Narayan. Not only did he remember the song, but he actually remembered the original Narayan. And therefore, he was saved from the hands of the Yamadutas. So Ajamil went back into his same body and then he renounced his family, renounced everything, went to Hardwar, practiced devotional service, and then he went back to Godhead. So this is the way we can become Krishna conscious by practicing Krishna conscious, by following the Yuga Dharma, which is chanting the whole name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So it says here, these things are meant for contemplation, it's a realization, and once you have a complete understanding of this chapter with the help of a spiritual master. So, like any activity in this world, 1 month to become a doctor, or 1 month to become a lawyer, or an engineer, he has to go to school where there is a qualified doctor or engineer who can teach him how this science works. If one simply reads the books on his own and thinks he can become a doctor, will not work. He'll not become a qualified doctor, even though he may think himself a doctor. But he has to go to the school and get the diploma. So in the same way, spiritual life is not different than anything in the material world. And in the material world, you have to have a spiritual guide in any profession. So in the same way, to understand, to learn spiritual knowledge, we also have to have a bona fide spiritual master. So this is required. Ado Guru Ashraya. Guru Goswami says, to begin spiritual life, one must accept the spiritual master. Tadvidi Paripapte Paripapte Sena Kumerek Janti Janas Tapadarshana. One should approach a spiritual master and render service unto him. He can impart knowledge unto you because he's seen the truth. So the spiritual master has this Jnana Chakshus, which is mentioned in this verse, eyes of knowledge. Srila Prabhupada had this Jnana Chakshus, eyes of knowledge, by hearing attentively. And Srila Prabhupada met Bhaktisiddhanta in 1922. He was very impressed, and then he decided to accept him as a spiritual master. But he waited some time, waited 11 years before he got initiation. And also, when they were at Radhakund, the devotees had the choice. They could hear from Bhaktisiddhanta was there, he was going to speak, or they could go and visit some holy places. So some of the devotees went to visit some holy places, but Srila Prabhupada stayed to hear from Bhaktisiddhanta. So Bhaktisiddhanta noted that this person, this Srila Prabhupada, likes to hear. So this was Prabhupada's qualification. Prabhupada said, I never changed anything. I simply repeated what I've heard from my spiritual master. So this is the Jnana Chakshus, the eyes of knowledge, is by hearing from the bona fide spiritual master and then repeating what we've heard. Therefore, we don't need to concoct anything, we don't need to change the philosophy, we don't need to try to understand anything that's not in Prabhupada's books or in Prabhupada's lectures or conversations. Prabhupada gave us everything that we need to know so that we can also have this Jnana Chakshus, or eyes of knowledge. And this way we can take the opportunity to preach Krishna consciousness by taking the time to study Prabhupada's books, and this way no one can defeat the devotee. And because the Krishna consciousness philosophy tells us what is what and who is who. There's no guessing, there's no guesswork involved. So we're reading the 5th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, and they're making the temple of understanding in Mayapur to prove the world, to show the world what is actually the absolute, what the truth is, how the material world is constructed, and everything is there in Srimad Bhagavatam, given by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. So there's no need for speculation. They say there's no life on the moon. I was reading just recently how the moon planet can't be a barren desert, not possible. And it says that the sages in Bhagavad Gita, they leave their body at a certain time, they go to the moon planet and live there for 10,000 years. And also when the Ganges descended to the material world, it also inundated the moon. So this is, and also in the 15th chapter where Krishna says, I become the moon and there supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So if the moon is a barren desert, then none of these statements hold any are true. But because they're bluffed the world, the scientists bluffed the world and claimed they went to the moon, even though Srila Prabhupada said they never went to the moon. They brought back some rocks from the Arizona desert, claimed them to be moon rocks, and say that there's no life on the moon. But we know that this is not true. That not only there's life on the moon, but there's life on every single planet in this universe. But it's not the same as on this planet. There's no reason in the world that we should believe, like they teach in school, there's only life on this planet and there's no life on any other planet. But that is a fallacy. And why should we think that way? If there's life on this planet, why there can't be life on other planets? But life on other planets is adapted according to the atmosphere of that planet. Even the sun, there's people living in the sun, but they have fire bodies, the moon or other planets, according to the elements, earth, water, fire, or ether, according to the prominent element. The people on those planets have bodies according to those elements. So we know when Krishna was a small baby, he was a naughty boy, and his mother tied him to a wooden mortar. And then Krishna, when he was playing with his friends, that wooden mortar, got stuck between two Arjun trees, and the trees fell down, and out came two beautiful men. They were the sons of Kuvera, who had been cursed to stand in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj for 100 years. So this is certainly shows that there's life on other planets, with demigods and 14 planetary systems. There's life on all 14 planetary systems, but life may not be the same as it is on this planet. But to think, accept the scientific theory that there's no life on any other planets is a complete fallacy. So here anyway, this chapter is a little technical chapter, and we've gone through this whole chapter and we're trying to understand the knowledge of the body, the soul, and the super soul. These three things always exist. And here Prabhupada says that the duty of the spiritual master to help the devotee to distinguish between matter and spirit, and that becomes a stepping stone for further spiritual realization. And this is the definition of knowledge: know the difference between spirit and matter and the controller of both. So the devotees are never confused in any phase of life, if they simply follow the process of Krishna consciousness, beginning with Shravanam, Kirtan, Vishnu, Smaranam. So, that's the time is up. Anybody have any comments or questions?
I saw those rocks, and I was thinking the whole museum, in the middle of this museum there was this podium, and inside the glass thing there were these rocks. And I was thinking, they spent billions of dollars and just bought some rocks for some mementos to show, and they didn't even describe what they were made out of or what the environment was that they were in. The whole thing was very unscientific as far as the museums go. The whole thing was bogus from beginning to end.
Bhagavatam says the moon planet is 1,600,000 miles away. So they went 1,600,000 miles in three days and came back. And there's no such vehicle that can go that fast and that far without refueling. How could they go and come back in 3 days? Which Brahma said, well, even by their calculation, they say the moon is 96 million miles away. They would have taken them 6 months to go. They went for 3 days with little space suits and no radiation, no contamination, and no ill effects. And so we know the whole thing was just a hoax. But we saw it on television when I was in school, and I believed it until people started doubting it and made videos to disprove this. Otherwise, a lot of people still believe they went to the moon, and they still try to convince people that they did go to the moon. But they never went back. They all went at one time and never went back again. They spent $24 million, but they never went back again. And now they're saying they're going to Mars, and they're selling land on Mars or something. So it's all hoax. Nothing. It's not scientific or anything.
The problem was the Russians had already sent out a sputnik. Hare Krishna, sorry. The problem was they had to defeat the Russians. It was actually...
Political.
It was, it was survival, so it was a big lie, a big hoax. But they pulled it off pretty well, I must say. A lot of people believed it.
Speaking of the moon, you mentioned about Ganges inundated the moon. Could you go more into detail?
Say that again.
You had mentioned, speaking about the moon, you had mentioned the Ganga inundated the moon.
And the Ganges. We read that in the 5th canto. And the Ganges comes down from the spiritual world. It inundates the moon. The chapter entitled The Descent of the Ganges.
This is just in relation to what Prashruti Maharaj said. There's an American author named Mark Twain who said, if you're going to tell a lie, tell it big enough and loud enough.
Anyway, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Bhagavad Gita Ki, all from